You may have read the title to this video and thought, what the actual fuck? Or you thought that it is just clickbait and you decided to watch it anyway because, well, you're bored. Unfortunately, it is not clickbait. There's pretty solid reasoning behind it. Of course, Gangnam Style is not directly responsible for the popularity of Flat Earth, but it was important to the history of the movement. To put this in context for those rare few people that may watch my channel and do not keep track of the pseudoscience nonsense that is on the internet, within the communities revolving around flat earth, anti-vax and climate change denial, there is a continuous narrative around how they are being censored. This comes from a decision made by YouTube to identify this fringe content and recommend it less to viewers. Firstly, making the decision to promote the content less frequently is hardly censorship. And secondly, this decision isn't actually intended to stamp it out. It is actually about compensation for a big mistake that YouTube made. So what does this have to do with a slightly chubby Korean guy releasing what was, at the time, the most watched music video on YouTube? Well, the key is in the algorithm. Back then, the YouTube algorithm was pretty straightforward. You watched a video and when you got to the end of that, it would recommend another similar video, which was vaguely along the same lines, but more importantly, had more views. And this resulted in the Gangnam Style effect. You could pick any starting point on YouTube and just leave it playing, or you could let the next video autoplay or select an arbitrary video from the recommendations list at the end. You would always end up at Gangnam Style at some point in time. And this was a problem for YouTube. At the end of the day, YouTube's revenue comes from having highly personalized data about the viewer so they know how to target the advertising. If every road on YouTube leads to the same video, then you create a homogenized viewership and it becomes difficult to create targeted ads. After all, the data show that everyone likes the same thing. So they decided to address this problem. At this point, they decided to change the algorithm by focusing on the content of the video you watched and not so much the popularity of the recommended video. The idea was to use your data to figure out what you will like and then throw in some stuff that you might like. This would send the user on tangents and into more niche content, and this is where they fucked up. Now, you can imagine that under this paradigm, you could happily be watching a video on travel around the southern parts of the United States, which then leads to something about New Mexico, then Roswell, and then finally being convinced that aliens are obsessed with your butthole. Or you could be watching a clip of Brian Cox standing on top of a mountain and grinning at the sun as he does, and before you know it, you are balls deep in an Eric Dubay video. Maybe, just maybe, you are feeling a bit bloated after Christmas and you feel that you should go to the gym. You look at some stuff to figure out what it's all about, and then you get recommended videos about exercise, nutrition, then bad nutrition, possibly eating disorders, and before you know it, you are watching videos promoting anorexia. This algorithm stopped sending you to Gangnam Style, and instead it sent you to weird conspiracy shit and outright harmful content. Now, is this responsible for the rise of Flat Earth? Well, the changes were implemented just over 5 years ago. And then there is this graph of the number of search queries for Flat Earth. This could be a coincidence, but I doubt it. Now, many people attribute B.O.B. coming out as a flat earther as the thing that really propelled Flat Earth into the zeitgeist. Even though that was the thing that made me aware of it, I don't think that is the case. The graph shows that the interest was growing before the B.O.B. spike, and the spike regressed back towards this background trend. Actually, this mistake in trying to address the Gangnam Style problem has been attributed to the rise of a lot of pseudoscience and fascist content, and also SJW bullshit, as it drives people into echo chambers. Now, I am not going to deny that there are other social factors involved, but that's a different story for a different video on a different channel. The history of the development of big online platforms like YouTube is littered with unintended consequences. At every step of the way, a mistake pops up and a fix is introduced. However, this fix tends to come with its own problems. And this is important to recognize when you consider the censorship narrative. Just over a year ago, YouTube made a statement promising a reduction in the amount of times that Flat Earth and other fringe content was recommended to viewers. And here I feel that I need to emphasize a few things for flat earthers, and that YouTube is not shutting this fringe content down, and it is not trying to cover it up. And for the other side, who often claim that YouTube has just merely stopped promoting it, you're also wrong. YouTube still promotes this stuff, just less frequently. And let's not forget that, if I'm right, it's YouTube's fuck-ups that were responsible for its growth in the first place. But then the question becomes, is YouTube's decision to reduce the amount of recommendations the right move, or is it another mistake? Now, firstly, when just talking about my personal experience, I'm getting more flat earth content recommended to me now than I did before the adjustment, even though before the adjustment I was actually subscribed to a number of flat earth channels. I have unsubscribed from these channels, but I'm getting more recommendations, so it doesn't look like this adjustment is too successful. I created a blank YouTube account with a new email address and only accessed YouTube on a fresh virtual machine located on a server in a different country, so there's no way that there could be any data for YouTube to determine if this fake user account has any interest in flat earth or other conspiracy nonsense. It sounds like overkill, but I did that to preemptively address excessively paranoid arguments. Now, starting with this blank account, I took the top result in the recommendations list and clicked on that for the first video. And for the next video, I chose one of the recommended videos that YouTube shows at the end. Now, after a few videos, I arrived at some pretty innocent Bermuda Triangle stuff. And then a video about how the Titanic didn't actually hit an iceberg. This was followed with some space stuff, and then some videos about the flat earth, but not actually promoting flat earth. It then veered away into climate change denial, sovereign citizens, and First Amendment auditors, but the 23rd video was an Eric Dubé video. Now, I got the account to navigate around YouTube without actually using the search function, and it was pretty easy to find myself in a flat earth rabbit hole. I started liking some videos and subscribing to the channels as well. Within a few hours in the afternoon, the recommended content went from a blank slate to being awash with flat earth crap. Now, I am perfectly happy to accept arguments that it is harder now, and I did attempt to actually go down the conspiracy rabbit hole, so that may have loaded the results. But it does show that YouTube has not stopped promoting stuff, as this stuff would not come up in the recommended list at all. But I also didn't give YouTube the explicit information that I am interested in flat earth by searching for it either. So this change in the algorithm hasn't actually made flat earth stuff impossible to get to. But it has given the flat earth community the martyr status, as if it's being oppressed by the man. It has also resulted in some flat earth content creators moving to other platforms where there's less oversight and their content is readily mixed in with some of the less savory parts of the internet. Now, this is particularly concerning when you consider the similarities between flat earth and, say, neo-Nazi movements. No, I am not saying that flat earthers are neo-Nazis. Not at all. Although we do know some that definitely are. But we absolutely cannot ignore the similarities in how these groups engage in discourse and how many flat earthers subscribe to an international conspiracy perpetrated by Jewish people. And let's not forget that just like Nazis, flat earthers are catty bitches. But remember the scene in Behind the Curve?
This is Edward Hendry's masterpiece, The Greatest Lie on Earth.
Yeah, that book has a whole chapter which is just Nazi propaganda. And this trend should worry you. A quick search for flat earth on BitChute yields some interesting results. The third result is a track by Eric Dubé where he openly praises the Third Reich. And just like modern fascist movements, the flat earth movement practices syncretism, which is an approach where you incorporate different beliefs to yours and as a result make your beliefs more palatable to a wider audience. Now, I have to reiterate that I am not saying that flat earthers are neo-Nazis, but they are going to the same parties, and I have to ask any flat earthers watching whether they are comfortable with that. If you are at a party and you find out that there are a large number of Nazis there, do you stay and have another fascist drink? Or do you decide that maybe it's time to go home? All in all, I am not quite sure whether the change that YouTube brought in to reduce the number of flat earth recommendations is really a good idea. I have a gut feeling that this will turn out to be another mistake in a series of mistakes throughout the history of the platform's development. The change appears to have been pretty ineffective in practical terms, but YouTube's expression of intent has created that martyr status, and it has given a lot of flat earthers the impression that they are not welcome at the party, But the guy with the funny mustache next door is also having a party, and you can always go there. Unfortunately, if I'm right, YouTube won't really feel the effects of this and is unlikely to address that because Flat Earth is too small to really affect their cash flow. But on the bright side, by not having to undo the mistake, there's one less thing that YouTube can fuck up in the future. So for any flat earthers who actually made it to this point of the video, keep it cool. YouTube is not trying to shut you down, and think carefully which party you go to. So that was it, and with that I would like to thank my patrons, who are Thomas J. Miller, Kate Ebneter, Walter Bislin, Johnny Ragadoo, Adalbert Red, Alexander Nick, MC Toon, Mike Harris, Paul Bates, Paul Schnus, Radek Stasny, Cy Blacklock Hughes, Stanzay, Steph Stringer News 1, Doranku, Kai Broking, Mark Edwards, Michelle Randall, Richmond Clemens, Slider, Ugly German Truth, and Lucas Schmidt. You guys are awesome, and you really help me maintain my channel. And of course to everyone else, thank you for coming along, thank you for watching, and you will catch me soon.